Sterling Manor, upstate New York. The air in the grand ballroom didn't just hum with conversation. It throbbed with a specific, practiced brand of old money judgment. I stood near a potted fern that probably cost more than my first car, nursing a glass of champagne I didn't want. My navy silk dress was simple, elegant, and I end this sea of Valentino gowns and blinding diamond chokers, practically a neon sign that read, "Poor relation." Rory, you came alone? I didn't need to turn. That sugary, venom-dipped voice belonged to Evelyn, my stepmother. She materialized beside me, a vision in ice-blue taffeta that matched her eyes. Her smile was all teeth. Derek's running late. A client emergency. I said, my voice even. A lie. He was probably sitting in his car outside, scrolling through sports news, working up the nerve to face my family. Of course, Evelyn purred, her gaze doing a slow, dismissive sweep of me. It's a shame. Chloe was hoping for a unified family front for the photos. But I suppose this is what we've come to expect. I took a sip of champagne. Let the insult slide. 5-year-old Rory would have cried. 15-year-old Rory would have fired back. 30-year-old Rory, who'd been running her own successful graphic design studio for 5 years and had heard every variation of this, just filed it away. Evidence. Always collect the evidence. The ceremony was beautiful, I said, because it was the expected script. Wasn't it? Her face lit up with genuine, greedy pleasure. The Kingsleys spared no expense. For their only son, nothing but the best. She leaned in, her perfume choking. Speaking of the best, I have a little surprise for Chloe. A wedding gift. A true family heirloom. She beckoned a small crowd. Chloe, resplendent in her puffy-sleeved monstrosity of a dress. Her new husband Bradley, and a cluster of aunts and cousins who hung on Evelyn's every word, with a flourish worthy of a game show host. Evelyn produced a velvet box. Inside, on a bed of white satin, lay a sapphire and diamond bracelet. It was gaudy, overly ornate, and probably cost as much as a house down payment. My grandmother's, Evelyn announced, her voice carrying, passed down through the women of our family. Chloe, darling, it's yours, a symbol of our legacy, a legacy built on my mother's money. I knew the piece. My father had bought it for Evelyn 6 months after my mother's funeral. There was a receipt, scanned and saved in a secure cloud folder labeled Estate Docs. But I just smiled. Lovely. Chloe squealed, clapping her hands. Oh, Mom, it's stunning. She thrust out her wrist, and Evelyn fastened the clasp. Chloe waved her arm around, making the stones catch the light. Bradley, look, isn't it divine? Bradley, whose expression permanently hovered between bored and confused, nodded. Yeah, sparkly. For the next hour, Chloe made a show of the bracelet. She wore it while cutting the cake. She made sure it was visible in every photo. She'd flash it at passing waiters, as if they cared. I watched from the periphery, texting Derek once. You coming in? No reply. The disaster began during the chaotic, drunken shift from dinner to dancing. A sudden, piercing shriek cut through the bland pop cover band. It's gone. Head swiveled. Chloe stood in the center of the room, her face a mask of theatrical horror, clutching her bare wrist. My bracelet. Mom, the heirloom bracelet. It's gone. Pandemonium. A low, excited rumble. Nothing spices up a wedding like a scandal. Evelyn rushed to her, face pale. What do you mean? Gone. You had it on at the cake table. I know. I just went to the restroom, and when I came back, it was off. It must have fallen. Or her eyes, wide and brimming with fake tears, swept the room. They landed on me. They held. A slow, dawning, utterly false realization spread across her features. Oh my God. A hush fell. 100 pairs of eyes followed her gaze. To me, standing alone, in my simple dress. Rory, Chloe said, her voice trembling. You were standing right by the gift table when I walked past. I thought it was weird. You were just hovering. The trap snapped shut. Clean. Simple. Vicious. I set my glass down on a passing tray. The click was loud in the quiet. I was waiting for Derek. Chloe, I wasn't near the gift table, and I haven't seen your bracelet. Search her purse. Someone. Evelyn's sister. Margot. Hissed. This is ridiculous, I said, my voice calm, cutting through the murmur. Check the security cameras. Sterling Manor has them everywhere. I pointed to a discreet dome near the ceiling. Evelyn's mouth tightened. And waste more time? While a thief walks among us. She strode toward me, a fury of taffeta and spite. Empty your clutch. Rory. Right now. No. The word was flat. Final. Her hand shot out. Not for the clutch, but for my arm. Her fingers dug in. Manicured nails, threatening to break skin. You ungrateful little. After everything we've done for you. You've always been jealous of Chloe. Your father knew it. Now you stoop to stealing at her wedding? I wrenched my arm free. Do not touch me, Evelyn. And for the last time, I didn't take anything. Get security. Review the footage. End of story. That's when he finally arrived. Derek, my husband. He pushed through the crowd, his handsome face a mess of confusion and discomfort. What's going on? I heard yelling. Derek, Chloe wailed, launching herself at him. Rory stole Grandma's bracelet, the priceless heirloom, and now she's refusing to give it back. Derek looked from Chloe's hysterical face to mine. His eyes held a question. But it wasn't "Are you okay?" It was the one that had been killing me, slowly for years. Did you do it, Rory? He asked, his voice weak. What's happening? The betrayal, familiar as an old ache, sharpened into a clean, cold point. He didn't stand beside me. He stood in the middle, waiting to see which way to fall. What's happening is your wife is a thief. Evelyn spat. She turned to the rapt audience, playing to the gallery. Look at her. She comes here, dressed like she's going to a job interview, surrounded by real wealth, real class, and she can't help herself. It's in her blood. Her mother was the same, always coveting what wasn't hers. That was the line, the one about my mother. The cold focus I'd been holding on to ignited into white-hot rage. I took a step forward. Apologize. Now, Evelyn laughed. A harsh, brittle sound. Or what? You'll steal the silverware on your way out? She moved, fast, her arm swinging in a wide, forceful arc aimed at my face. The world slowed. 5 years. 5 years of getting up at 5 a.m. when Derek was asleep. 5 years of driving to a gritty gym in a part of town he'd never visit. 5 years of sweat, bruised chins, cracked ribs, learning how to move, how to breathe, how to hit, how to not be afraid. It had never been about this moment. It had been about taking back a piece of myself. But now, in this moment, it was about this. I didn't flinch. I moved. My left forearm came up, blocking her swing with a solid thwack that sounded shockingly loud. The impact jarred her, surprise flashing in her eyes. In the same motion, I stepped in, grabbed the arm I had just blocked, pivoted my hips, and used her own momentum. It wasn't a fancy move. It was basic, efficient jujitsu. A hip throw. Evelyn shrieked, a sound of pure outrage, as her feet left the ground. It wasn't a violent slam that I controlled the fall, but it was utterly undeniable. She landed on her back atop the nearby dessert table with a crash of plates and a whumph expelled air. A 3-tiered red velvet cake exploded, smearing buttercream and crimson crumbs all over her ice blue taffeta. She lay there, stunned, wailing like a stuck pig. The silence was absolute. The band had stopped. You could hear a champagne bubble pop. I stood over her, breathing steady. 5 years of training kept my heart rate under control. I looked at Derek. His jaw was on the floor. his eyes wide with a kind of terrified disbelief. I looked at Chloe, whose dramatic tears had frozen in shock. I looked at the sea of cousins, aunts, and Kingsleys, their faces a gallery of stunned stupidity. Then I spoke. My voice didn't shake. It was clear, cold, and carried to the back of the room. The next person who lays a hand on me, I said, looking straight at the groomsman who'd taken a half step forward, gets the same, no warnings. I turned to the frozen wedding planner, who was clutching her headset like a lifeline. You, call security, not to restrain me, to pull the footage from the cameras covering the hallway to the restrooms and the gift table for the last 30 minutes. Now, I finally looked down at Evelyn, who was sputtering, trying to sit up in the cake wreckage. And you, I said, the chill in my voice deepening. You ever speak about my mother again, and I won't use a table. We clear? A security guard in a cheap suit came rushing in. I held up a hand. I'm the one who called for you. The footage. Now. And someone might want to check the South Service exit. I saw a waiter wearing a ring with a large blue stone on his right hand about 20 minutes ago. He looked nervous. He's probably long gone with the real bracelet. But his accomplice. I let my gaze sweep over Evelyn's cake-smeared form, then to Chloe's suddenly panic-stricken face. Might still be here. The spell broke. Chaos erupted. Different chaos. Not the fun wedding chaos. The holy shit chaos. Derek finally moved, grabbing my arm. Rory, what the hell did you just do? I looked at his hand on my arm, then up at his face. The boy who'd stood up for me was gone. In his place was a stranger, scared of a scene. I pulled my arm free. I defended myself. I said quietly, so only he could hear, and you watched her hit me first. Where were you? Derek? His mouth opened, but no sound came out. The gulf between us, the one I'd been papering over with memories of a lonely teenager and a kind boy, cracked wide open. I could see all the way down to the empty bottom. I turned my back on him, on the wailing Evelyn, on the silent, staring crowd. I walked toward the security guard, my heels clicking on the marble floor. The sound was steady, assured, the sound of a woman who was done. Done with the lies, done with the traps, done waiting for a knight who'd turned into just another pawn. The game was different now, and for the first time, I was playing by my own rules. Sterling Manor driveway, Westchester County Police Precinct. The crisp night air hit my face like a slap. A welcome relief from the stifling, perfumed heat of the ballroom. Sirens wailed in the distance, getting closer. Behind me, through the manor's ornate doors, chaos still reigned. I could hear Evelyn's shrieks, assault. I want her arrested. And Chloe's hysterical sobbing, now mixed with genuine panic. I stood on the gravel driveway, the stones crunching under my heels. I wasn't running. I was waiting. Derek stumbled out after me, his face pale under the harsh exterior lights. Rory, my God, what did you do? You threw her. I turned to look at him, the man I'd married, the man whose proposal I'd accepted because he reminded me of the boy who shared his peanut butter sandwiches with the lonely new kid. That boy was gone. She assaulted me first. Derek, you saw it. Everyone saw it. She slapped you. You slammed her onto a table. There's a difference. Is there? My voice was quiet, deadly calm. The intent was the same, to humiliate and hurt me. I just had the means to prevent it, a concept you've never quite grasped. Don't do this. He pleaded, running a hand through his hair. Don't make this worse. Just go back in. Apologize to Evelyn. Help them look for the bracelet. I didn't take the bracelet. I said, each word a shard of ice. Then who did? He exploded, frustration overriding his fear. Some mystery waiter? Rory, be realistic. Why would a waiter target Chloe? He wouldn't. A new, cool voice interjected, but someone who wanted to create a scene, to publicly destroy Rory's reputation. Might hire one. Diana Sterling emerged from the shadows near a sleek black town car. I'd seen her inside, a silent, observant figure in a perfectly cut charcoal suit, a distant cousin on the Kingsley side, a legal shark so feared and respected that even Evelyn tread lightly around her. We'd exchanged brief pleasantries years ago at some other dreadful family function. She held up her phone, its screen glowing. I recorded the latter part of that fascinating display. Diana said, walking toward us. Her heels were sensible, her gaze sharper than any stiletto. From the moment Evelyn laid hands on you, Rory, the audio is quite clear. The defamatory statements, the physical threat, the assault. She looked at Derek as a material witness who did nothing to intervene. You're in a fascinating legal gray area. Mr. Morgan, complicit through inaction. One could argue. Derek blanched. I didn't. This is insane. 2 county patrol cars pulled up. Lights painting the manor facade in swirling red and blue. Officers emerged. Evelyn, now draped in a waiter's jacket over her cake-smeared gown, practically flew out the doors, pointing a trembling finger at me. That's her. Officer, arrest that woman. She attacked me. She's a thief and a violent maniac. The older of the 2 officers, a weary-looking man with a sergeant's stripes, held up a hand. Ma'am, we'll get everyone's statement, one at a time. He looked at me. You want to tell me your side? Before I could speak, Diana stepped forward, a business card appearing in her hand like magic. Officer Delaney, Diana Sterling, of Sterling, Coxbird. I'm representing Ms. Rory Morgan. We will be happy to provide a full statement at the precinct. We will also be filing charges against Evelyn Harcourt for assault, battery, and defamation. I have audio evidence, which I will provide, and we will be requesting the security footage from Sterling Manor for the past hour. Evelyn spluttered. You can't, that's my stepdaughter. Diana finished smoothly. A distinction without a legal difference in matters of assault. Officer, I'd suggest you take statements from all parties separately, starting with my client. We'll follow you in. The ride to the precinct was silent. Derek sat stiffly in the back of the patrol car they'd put him in, his face pressed to the window. I rode with Diana. You recorded it? I asked. Once the doors were closed, I record everything at family events, she said dryly, pulling into traffic. It's a professional hazard. Also, Evelyn Harcourt is a venomous piece of work. I've had my eye on her since she somehow convinced your soft-hearted father to rewrite his will. I had a feeling tonight would be eventful. I just didn't expect the jiu-jitsu. Where'd you train? Krav Maga and Brazilian jiu-jitsu. 5 years, over at Gridiron Gym in the city. A slow, approving smile touched her lips. Good for you. Now, talk to me. The waiter. You really see him? I did. Cheap rental shoes, but a Tag Heuer on his wrist. Didn't fit. The ring was a cheap cubic zirconia, but it was big and blue. He made eye contact with Chloe twice during the reception. It was a signal. You're very observant. When you grow up in a house with snakes. I said, my voice flat. You learn to watch for the flick of a tongue. At the precinct, the sterile, fluorescent-lit reality set in. We were separated. I gave my statement to Sergeant Delaney in a small, beige room, with Diana a silent, imposing presence at my side. I told him everything, calmly, factually, the history of animosity, the display of the bracelet, the accusation, the slap, my defensive move, the waiter. I played the audio clip from my own phone that I'd started recording the moment Chloe screamed, thief. Evelyn's voice, shrill and hateful, filled the room. It's in her blood. Her mother was the same. Delaney's face was impassive, but he took the audio file. And you have no idea who this waiter was? No. But Sterling Manor will have a staff list and security footage. He leaned back. Mrs. Harcourt.Evelyn.is demanding your arrest. She's got a dozen people saying you attacked her unprovoked. I have video of the provocation. Diana interjected from multiple angles. If the Manor's security system is up to code, and we have a witness to the waiter.my client, plus the alleged stolen item hasn't been found on her person or in her possessions, which you verified, this is a transparent and frankly sloppy attempt at character assassination that escalated into physical violence against my client. The charge we're filing is the serious one. Delaney rubbed his temples. Rich people's problems. He muttered, then stood. Wait here. He was gone for 20 minutes. When he returned, he looked at me with a new, grudging respect. Security footage from the main hall is inconclusive. Bad angle. But the camera covering the service corridor to the south exit shows a male, matching your description of the waiter, exiting in a hurry at 9:47 p.m., roughly 3 minutes after Mrs. Chloe Kingsley reported the bracelet missing. He's patting his pocket, can't see what's in it, but it's something. He paused. The camera at the actual south exit gate shows him getting into a dark sedan. Plates are muddied. We're running it, but it's a long shot, so she's in the clear, Diana stated. On the theft, for now, the assault complaint is a countersuit waiting to happen. Diana finished. We'll drop our assault charge if she drops hers, but the defamation and emotional distress suit stands. Delaney sighed. I'll relay the offer. You're free to go. Ms. Morgan, don't leave town. Outside the interrogation room, in the bleak, buzzing hallway of the precinct. Derek was waiting. He looked hollow. They're letting her go, he said to Diana, as if I weren't there. They are, because she didn't do anything wrong. Diana replied, I'd suggest you get your story straight. Mr. Morgan, your wife's civil suit is going to be ugly, and you're a key witness. Figure out whose side you're on. She handed me a card. My office, 10 a.m. tomorrow. We'll start drafting. I'll see myself out. With a final, pitying glance at Derek, she walked away, her footsteps echoing on the linoleum. The silence between us was a living thing. The hum of the vending machine, the distant chatter of dispatch, the buzz of the lights, IT all faded under the weight of what wasn't said. You took self-defense classes? He finally asked, his voice ragged. For 5 years? Yes. Why didn't you tell me? I looked at him, truly looked at him. The slight paunch he developed. The worry lines that weren't from work, but from his mother's constant anxiety. The faded echo of the confident boy he'd been. When would I have told you? Derek? Over dinner. While you talked about your fantasy league. On the weekends. When you were at your mom's helping with her errands. You never asked how I spent my Tuesday and Thursday nights. You just assumed it was work. I thought you were working late. Not learning how to hurt people. I learned how to make sure I'm not the one who gets hurt. I corrected him softly. The fight was draining out of me, leaving a profound, aching exhaustion. You stood there. You let her call me a thief. You let her say those things about my mother. And when she hit me, you just watched. He flinched. I was in shock. It all happened so fast. What did you want me to do? Rory? Hit her back? I wanted you to stand in front of me. The words burst out, raw and painful. I wanted you to say, that's my wife, and you will not speak to her or touch her like that. I wanted the boy who told Tommy Grayson to go to hell in the 10th grade for spreading rumors about me. Where was he? His face crumpled. That was a long time ago. Rory, this is real life. That's my family now. The final piece of the fragile fantasy I'd built. The one where the ghost of a good boy could sustain a marriage to a hollow man. Shattered. No, I said, my voice suddenly clear. They're not. They're my father's widow and her daughter, and you're their accomplice, through inaction. As Diana said, what are you saying? The panic in his eyes was real now. I'm saying I'm not coming home tonight. I'm saying you need to think about what happened in there. And I need to think about everything that didn't happen for the last 5 years. Rory, don't do this. We can fix this. You had your chance to fix it, I said, walking toward the precinct's glass doors. You had it when she raised her hand. You had it every time you let your mother criticize our life. You had it every time you chose the path of least resistance. I'm done waiting for you to take a stand. Derek, goodbye. I pushed out into the cool night. Diana's town car was idling at the curb. She leaned over and pushed the passenger door open. Get in, she said. You look like you could use a drink and a war council. The car interior was silent, leather-scented, safe. As we pulled away from the precinct, the tension in my shoulders began to unlock, replaced by a deep, trembling cold. He's not going to change, Diana said, not unkindly. I know. The audio is gold. The security footage, even partially helpful, corrodes their story, but they'll come at you harder. They'll dig. They'll find your gym membership, spin it as proof of a violent nature. They'll find old school reports. Anything. Let them dig, I said, staring out at the passing streetlights. I've been digging longer. She glanced at me. Oh, I took a deep breath. This was the leap. Evelyn wasn't my father's grieving widow. She was his mistress. He was still married to my mother, who was dying of ovarian cancer. When Evelyn got pregnant with Chloe, Diana let out a low whistle. Classy. The family heirloom bracelet? My father bought it for her with money from a joint account he'd had with my mother. I have the bank statements. I have my mother's will, which he contested, unsuccessfully, thanks to a morality clause my grandfather had the sense to insert. I have emails between Evelyn and a private investigator she hired 2 years ago to find dirt on me. He found nothing, but I have the invoices she paid. I have screenshots of texts between Chloe and a friend from last week, planning to take that smug bitch down a peg at the wedding. And I have a receipt, emailed to a burner account I set up, for a cubic zirconia replica of that bracelet, purchased online by Evelyn Harcourt 3 days ago. The car was silent for a full minute. Well, Diana said finally, a slow, fierce smile spreading across her face. You haven't been idle, have you? I've been waiting, I said, the cold inside me hardening into something solid, something sharp. I was waiting for him to see it. My father, but he died, still making excuses for her. Then I was waiting for Derek to see it, but he chooses not to look. I turned to her. I'm done waiting. Diana. She nodded. All business now. The defamation suit is your opening move. It forces them into discovery. It lets us subpoena their financials, their communications. We hit them with the civil suit. And when they're scrambling, we drop the evidentiary bomb about the fake bracelet and the hired waiter. We'll also notify the trustee of your father's estate about the fraudulent use of trust funds for a staged theft intended to harm a beneficiary you. That triggers the morality clause. The monthly distributions Evelyn lives on could be frozen pending investigation. I don't just want to win in court, I said, my voice low. I want the world they care about at their country club, their charity boards, their perfect social media lives. Tio know exactly what they are. Diana's smile turned razor sharp. Then we don't just file a lawsuit. Rory, we start a war. And from what I've seen tonight, you're an excellent soldier. She pulled up to a sleek, modern apartment building. My guest suite is yours for as long as you need it. Get some sleep. Tomorrow, we draw up the battle plans. I got out of the car. The weight of the night still heavy on me, but beneath it, a new current was flowing. It wasn't hope. It was something darker, more potent, purpose. Diana, I said, before she drove off. She lowered the window. Thank you for recording, for believing me. She looked at me, and for a moment, the fierce attorney mask slipped, revealing something like understanding. My mother was the other woman too. She said simply, I know the species. Get some sleep. Rory, your stepmother's reign of terror ends tomorrow. As I walked into the quiet, elegant lobby, my phone buzzed. A text from Derek. Please come home. We can talk. I love you. I stared at the words. The I love you that had once been a bomb now felt like a label on an empty jar. I didn't delete it. I didn't reply. I saved it. Evidence. Then I typed a new message. To my trainer. Lena, can you fit me in for a sparring session at 6 a.m.? I need to hit something. Her reply was almost instant. Always. See you in the morning. Warrior. I powered off my phone. The quiet was absolute. For the first time in years. It wasn't lonely. It was peaceful. It was mine. The calm before the storm I was finally ready to unleash. Diana's guest apartment. Manhattan. The alarm on my phone buzzed at 5:15 a.m. A harsh electronic chirp in the silent, unfamiliar dark. For a moment, I was disoriented. The sheets were 2, a high thread count. The room smelled of someone else's lavender linen spray. And the weight on my chest wasn't a blanket. It was the memory of the previous night. Evelyn's sneer, Chloe's pointing finger, the sickening crunch of cake and bone china, and Derek's face, a portrait of terrified indecision. I sat up. The city's pre-dawn glow painted faint geometric shapes on the floor. No tears, no panic, just a cold, clear focus. Lena expected me at 6 a.m. I moved through the pristine bathroom, splashed water on my face, and pulled on the workout clothes I'd grabbed from my home gym bag, which, thankfully, had been in my car. I laced up my sneakers. The ritual was grounding. My phone, powered back on, lit up with notifications. Missed calls from Derek, 12. From his mother, 8. From an unknown number, likely belonging to a Harcourt family lawyer. Texts, a torrent of them. Derek's ranged from pleading, please. We need to talk, to accusatory. How could you just leave me at the police station? His mother's were masterpieces of passive-aggressive guilt-tripping. Derek is devastated. Whatever Evelyn did, she's family. This isn't how a wife behaves. There was one from Chloe, sent at 2 a.m. You're dead to me. You'll pay for what you did to my mom. I deleted them all, unread after the first line. Then I opened a different app as secure. Encrypted Cloud Vault. I entered a 24-digit password. A digital file cabinet opened. Folders with names like estate stocks, bank statements, PI correspondence, Chloe Sms, Evelyn Smiles. My life's work, or at least the work of the last 7 years. I scrolled, not needing to read, just absorbing the cold comfort of their existence. This was my arsenal. This was the root of the rot, meticulously documented. I'd started collecting it not out of some grand plan for revenge, but as a form of self-preservation. Proof that I wasn't crazy. Proof that the slights, the thefts, the manipulations were real. It began not long after my mother died. Flashback, Westchester, 2005. The smell of hospital antiseptic and lilies clung to everything. Even weeks later, our big, old colonial felt like a museum dedicated to grief. I was 16, hollowed out. Dad moved through the rooms like a ghost, his eyes red-rimmed and distant. Then Evelyn arrived, not to visit, to stay. Your father needs help. Rory, she'd said, her voice a false syrup as she unpacked her suitcases in my mother's sitting room. A man shouldn't be alone, and a girl your age needs a woman's guidance. She was 32, 10 years younger than my father, with a brassy laugh and a way of touching his arm that made him flinch, then relax. Chloe was 12, a sullen shadow with Evelyn's calculating eyes. They'd moved in temporarily 3 months after the funeral. The temporary became permanent with a whisper in my father's ear and the flash of a positive pregnancy test that was, I'd later discover from date-stamped ultrasound photos in the PI's files, from before me mother's death. The theft started small, a silver hairbrush of my mother's, a first edition of To Kill a Mockingbird from her study. When I confronted her, Evelyn's face would melt into concern. Oh, sweetheart, I put it away for safekeeping. You're so fragile right now. We wouldn't want you losing her things and getting more upset. My father, when I begged him to make her stop, would just look weary. Rory, please. She's trying to help. We all need to be a family now. For the baby, the reason for everything, the justification for every intrusion, every erasure of my mother. The nursery was painted over my mother's soft yellow reading nook. Her clothes were donated, her perfume thrown out. The scent is too painful for your father. Darling, Evelyn explained, her hand on her barely there bump. I took to hiding things, a locket, a favorite scarf, a small porcelain dog. I'd find them gone days later. One afternoon, I heard Chloe in my room. I stood at the door, watching as my 12-year-old stepsister opened my jewelry box, a simple wooden thing my mother had given me, and took out a pair of small pearl earrings. What are you doing? She didn't even jump. She turned, the earrings in her palm. Mom says these are too old for you. I'm going to wear them to the spring dance. They were my mother's. Put them back. Your mother's dead, she said, her voice flat, matter of fact. She doesn't need them. I snatched them from her hand. She screamed as if I'd hit her. Evelyn came running, Dad shuffling behind her. She attacked me. Chloe wailed. She's crazy. She's always so mean to me. Evelyn gathered Chloe to her, shooting me a look of pure venom. Richard, do you see? This is what I've been talking about. This aggression. It's not healthy. For her, or for the baby. She rubbed her stomach protectively. My father looked from my furious, tear-streaked face to Chloe's dramatic sobs. Rory, he said, his voice tired, defeated, apologize to your sister and give her the earrings. They're just things. That was the moment I learned the rules of the new world. Facts didn't matter. Truth was what Evelyn narrated. My father's love was a finite resource, and I was no longer a priority. I handed over the earrings. I muttered an apology. I went to my room and didn't cry. I started a list on a hidden notepad. June 14th, pearl earrings, taken by Chloe. Dad did nothing. Flashback, Westchester, 2008. I was 19, home from college for Thanksgiving. The house was different, brighter, louder, full of Chloe's pop music and Evelyn's new, expensive art that clashed with the home's bones. I was a ghost in my own home. Dad tried. He'd ask about my classes, about my dorm, but his eyes kept drifting to Evelyn, seeking approval, fearful of sparking a conflict. The night before Thanksgiving, I overheard them arguing in his study. The door was ajar. A trust for Rory is absurd. Richard, Evelyn's voice, sharp as broken glass. Your mother's money should go to your grandchildren, to Chloe, to the baby. Rory's mother left her that awful modernist painting that's probably worth a fortune. She said, we have a family to think about. Evelyn, it was my mother's wish, my father's voice, a weak protest. She wanted Rory to have a safety net. A safety net from what? From us? Your mother never accepted me. And this is her final dig. It's an insult to our marriage, to our children. I heard the familiar sound of her crying, not loud sobs, but the effective, hiccuping tears that always unmanned him. All right, sweetheart, don't upset yourself. It's not good for the, okay. We'll talk to the lawyer, see what we can do. I crept away, my heart a cold stone in my chest. The next morning, I found the family lawyer's card in my father's Rolodex. I called from a payphone at the gas station. Mr. Henderson was an old, kind man who'd known my mother. Rory, my dear, he'd sighed. I'm bound by client confidentiality regarding your father's affairs. But regarding your grandmother's, well, that is a matter of public record once probate is closed. And anyone can open a safety deposit box. It was the first clue. I opened a safety deposit box the next week. I put in my mother's will, a copy of my grandmother's, and the list I'd been keeping, which had grown long. It was the seed of the vault. Present day Gridiron Gym. Manhattan. Lena was already in the ring, wrapping her hands. She was 50, with a shaved head, sinewy arms covered in tattoos, and eyes that missed nothing. She took one look at me as I walked in and nodded. Rough night. You could say that. Good. Anger has purpose. Gloves. Headgear. Let's go. For an hour. I didn't think. I moved. Jab. Cross. Hook. Slip. Bob. Weave. The thud of my gloves on the focus. Mitts was a primal. Satisfying rhythm. Sweat stung my eyes. Dripped down my back. Lena pushed me. Her voice a constant. Gritty commentary. Stop flinching. You're not a victim in here. You see the shot. You take it. Again. Faster. What are you protecting? Your pretty face? Your job? Fuck that. Protect your center. Protect your will. Everything else is collateral damage. During a water break, gulping from my bottle, she leaned on the ropes. So, the shit hit the fan. I told her. The bracelet. The slap. The throw. The precinct. Diana. I kept it factual. Lena listened. Her expression unchanged. And the husband? She finally asked. He watched. She made a sound of disgust, etched from the side of her mouth. A man who watches is worse than the one who throws the punch. The puncher. You know what he is. The watcher. He makes you doubt your own eyes. She looked at me. You're not doubting. Are you? No. Good. The move you used. The hip throw. It was clean. Controlled. You didn't hurt her. You made a point. I wanted to hurt her. I admitted. The truth raw in my throat. I know. But you didn't. That's control. That's power. Remember that. The world's full of people who think power is taking what you want. Real power is choosing not to. She tapped my headgear. Now, stop thinking and hit. The thinking comes later. Later, Sterling. Coxbird. Midtown. Diana's office was all floor-to-ceiling windows, sleek modern furniture, and the quiet hum of money and influence. She had a pot of coffee and a folder already open. I spoke to the trustee of your father's estate, Old Man Henderson's successor, a very by-the-book guy named Armand. He was deeply concerned by my summary. The morality clause in the trust is ironclad. Engaging in fraudulent, defamatory, or slanderous conduct detrimental to the welfare of a fellow beneficiary, that's you, may result in suspension of distributions. I emailed him the police report number and the audio clip. He's convening a review panel. She slid a document across the desk. The defamation and intentional infliction of emotional distress complaint. Read it. I did. It was brutal, precise, and cited the audio recording. The police reports note about the fleeing waiter and the history of hostile behavior as evidence of a pattern. It named both Evelyn and Chloe. The damages sought were significant enough to be painful, not enough to be dismissed as frivolous. It's perfect, I said. It's the opening salvo. They'll be served today. Their lawyer will likely be a bulldog named Alan Finch. Nasty piece of work, but predictable. He'll threaten. He'll bluster. He'll try to drag Derek into it. Speaking of, she eyed me. Have you spoken to him? He's texted. I haven't responded. Smart. Keep it that way. Any communication should be through lawyers now. It's cleaner. She leaned forward. Now, Rory, the evidence you mentioned, the bank statements, the PI, the receipt for the replica. I need to see it. All of it. I opened my laptop, logged into the vault, and turned the screen to her. For the next hour, I walked her through it. The scanned bank statement from 2004 showing an $85,000 transfer from joint account. Richard Eleanor Vance to Bella Jewels. Ink with a memo. Sapphire bracelet, Evelyn. That was 2 months after my mother died. I said, my voice detached. The joint account was supposed to be used to settle her medical bills. He drained it for a bracelet. Diana's lips thinned. Go on. I showed her the emails. Evelyn writing to a PI firm. Subject: Rory Vance, due diligence. Need: full background. Financials: associations. Discretion paramount, the PI's reply. A quote: his final report, which stated, subject maintains a clean record, no criminal history. Financial debts are minimal, student loans. Gainfully employed, social circle is small. Professional, no significant derogatory information found, and the invoice, paid from Evelyn's personal account. Then, the text message screenshots. From Chloe to a friend named Tiffany. Gonna be epic. Mom's got the fake. Waiter is on standby. When I give the signal, he palms the real one. Rory will lose her shit. Bradley's stuffy family will finally see the trash she is. Can't wait to see her face. And finally, the email receipt. Sent to a dummy account I'd created years ago to monitor Evelyn's primary email. A story for another day. Order confirmation. LuxReplicas.com. Item. 14K gold-plated sapphire CZ tennis bracelet. Total $129.99. Shipped to E. Harcourt. Diana sat back in her chair, a slow, fierce grin spreading across her face. My God, Rory, this isn't a case. This is a murder weapon, and you've been sharpening it for a decade. I just wanted to know, I said quietly, the detachment leaving me, replaced by a cold, old anger. I wanted proof I wasn't imagining it, that they were really this small, and cruel, and greedy. Well, you have it, in spades. She steepled her fingers. The lawsuit is the bait. The discovery process is the trap. When they're forced to produce their own financials and communications, we spring this. It won't just win the case. It will destroy them. Socially, financially, the trust payments will be frozen. Chloe's new in-laws, the Kingsleys, will have a front row seat to the fact that their new daughter-in-law is a scheming liar. The prenup Bradley signed probably has its own morality clause. She looked at me, her lawyerly gleam softening a fraction. Are you ready for that? For the nuclear option? There's no going back from this. It'll be ugly, public. I thought of my mother's face, pale against hospital pillows, telling me to be strong. I thought of my father, turning away. I thought of Derek's eyes, full of doubt instead of defense. I thought of the feel of Evelyn's arm in my grip, the solid, undeniable truth of the throw. I've been going back for years. Diana, I said, my voice steady, trying to be quiet, to be good, to not make waves. It never made me safe. It just made me a better target. I closed the laptop with a soft click. I'm done being a target. Let it be ugly. Diana nodded. All business again. Then here's what we do. We file the suit today. I'll have a process server at Evelyn's doorstep by dinner. Tomorrow, you go about your life. Work. Train. Be seen being calm, collected, and unbothered. Let them panic. Let them make mistakes. Finch will call, threatening a countersuit for assault. I'll handle him. You say nothing to anyone, especially Derek. What about the waiter? The police? They'll look, but without a plate. It's a dead end. It doesn't matter. The existence of the fake bracelet receipt and Chloe's texts prove conspiracy to commit defamation and frame you. The waiter is just the mechanism. The police don't need to find him for our civil case to be a slam dunk. I stood up, feeling the pleasant ache in my muscles from the morning's training, a counterpoint to the churning in my gut. And Derek? I asked, the name tasting like ash. Diana's gaze was compassionate but unsparing. That's your call, Rory. But from a legal standpoint, he's a witness, a weak, unreliable one. From a personal standpoint, she shrugged. You saw who he was when it mattered. The boy you loved was a story you told yourself to survive. The man is the reality. Don't confuse the two. I knew she was right. The memory of Derek, the high school Derek, with his easy smile and fierce, stupid loyalty, that was a ghost. A beautiful, haunting ghost. The man in the police station, worrying about the scene. That was the flesh and blood reality. You couldn't build a life with a ghost. I left Diana's office, the lawsuit a tangible weight in my bag. Instead of heading to my studio, I walked. I walked through the busy Manhattan streets, past couples holding hands, families arguing, tourists gaping. I felt invisible, and for the first time, that felt like power. I wasn't Richard Vance's sad daughter, or Evelyn's difficult stepdaughter, or Derek Morgan's quiet wife. I was Rory, and I had just declared war. My phone buzzed. A new email notification. It was from my building's superintendent. Mrs. Morgan, your husband is here with a locksmith. He says he's locked out and needs to change the locks. He says you're not answering your phone. Please advise. A cold smile touched my lips. The first mistake. He'd gone running to Mommy, and she'd advised him to lock me out, to try and seize the high ground, or the apartment, at least. I typed a quick reply, copying Diana. Please do not allow any locksmith or anyone other than myself access to my apartment. I am the sole leaseholder. My husband is not a resident. If he attempts to gain entry, please call the police. I will be there shortly with my attorney to formally change the locks and have his belongings packed. The war wasn't just coming. It had arrived on my doorstep, and I was done retreating. I hailed a cab, giving the address of the loft Derek and I shared. It was time to take back my home. My apartment building, West Village. The cab ride downtown was a blur of honking horns and my own cold, focused fury. My apartment, the lease was in my name only, a fact Derek had been vaguely embarrassed about but happy to benefit from. I had paid the security deposit, handled the broker's fees, and covered the rent the 2 times his startup's payroll had been temporarily delayed. The super, Mr. Fernandez, was a good man who'd fixed a leak on a Sunday for me. He knew who actually lived there, who actually paid. I saw the van first, Metro Locksmiths, parked haphazardly in the loading zone. My stomach tightened, but the feeling wasn't fear. It was a sharp, clarifying rage. Diana's town car pulled up right behind me. She got out, a sleek panther in a pantsuit, a briefcase in hand. Right on time for the show, she said, her voice dry. Let's go evict your husband. The lobby was a tense tableau. Mr. Fernandez, arms crossed, stood firmly between a flustered-looking locksmith and Derek. Derek's face was pale, set in a stubborn mask I recognized, the one he wore when his mother had convinced him he was right about something. His own mother, Patricia, was there too, a small, bird-like woman in a cashmere cardigan, her mouth a thin, disapproving line. Rory, Derek exclaimed, a mix of relief and accusation. Where have you been? I've been calling all night. I was worried sick. By changing the locks on our home? My voice was dangerously calm. My home. Patricia chirped, stepping forward. I gifted Derek the down payment. If you'll recall, it's only right he has control, especially after your outburst last night. We're all very concerned for your mental state. Aurora, I ignored her, looking at Derek. Is that what you think? That you can lock me out of my own, legally leased apartment? He shifted, uncomfortable under Mr. Fernandez's stare. It's our home, Rory. And after what you did, Mom just thought, for safety's sake, until we figure things out. Your mother, I said slowly, does not live here. She has no legal standing. And you, as a non-leaseholding occupant, have no right to authorize a lock change. I turned to the locksmith. Your work order is invalid. You will not proceed. If you do, you will be trespassing and engaging in an illegal eviction. My attorney is here. Would you like to discuss liability? The locksmith, a guy in his 50s with a tired face, looked at Derek, then at Diana, who gave him a serene, shark-like smile. He held up his hands. Lady, I don't need the hassle. You folks sort your domestic stuff out. He started packing his tools. You can't do that. I'm paying you. Derek sputtered. Sue me, the locksmith muttered, loading his gear into the van. Patricia turned her beady eyes on me. You see, this is exactly the instability I was talking about. Violent, unreasonable. Derek, this is not a safe environment for you. Diana chose that moment to step forward, extending a card to Mr. Fernandez. Diana Sterling, of Sterling, Cox Bird. I represent Ms. Rory Vance. We are here to formally change the locks. As my client is the sole leaseholder, we have a certified locksmith en route. Furthermore, Mr. Derek Morgan is hereby given notice that his license to occupy the premises is revoked, effective immediately. He has 24 hours to remove his personal effects, under supervision. Failure to do so will result in his belongings being placed in storage at his expense, and a formal trespass order being filed. The legal jargon hung in the air. Derek looked like he'd been slapped. 24. Rory, you can't be serious. I am, I said, meeting his eyes. The boy I loved was gone. All I saw was a stranger led around by his mother's puppet strings. You chose a side last night. It wasn't mine. Now you get to live on that side. You can take your things to your mother's. I'm sure she'll love having you. Patricia gasped. How dare you? I dare, I said, my voice flat. Mr. Fernandez, the new locksmith will be here in 10 minutes. Please ensure only myself or my representative, I nodded to Diana, are allowed to authorize entry. Of course, Ms. Vance, Mr. Fernandez said, shooting Derek a disapproving look. Rory, please, Derek pleaded, grabbing my arm. His touch felt alien, repulsive. Let's go upstairs and talk. Just us. We can work this out. I looked at his hand on my arm, then back at his face. There's nothing to work out. Derek, you were my husband. When I needed you, you were an audience. You don't get a backstage pass now. I pulled my arm free. You have a key. Use it today to get your stuff. After 7 p.m., it won't work. Diana will oversee. I won't be here. I turned and walked towards the elevator, Diana falling into step beside me. I didn't look back. I heard Patricia's shrill voice, "You'll hear from our lawyer." And Diana's cool reply, "I look forward to it. Have him contact me regarding the divorce filing as well." The elevator doors closed, sealing us in silence. My hands were trembling. I clenched them into fists. "Good," Diana said, approvingly. "Clean. No drama. He'll spin it. Of course. The poor, emasculated husband thrown out by his violent wife. But the facts are on your side. The lease. The police report listing you as the victim of assault. It's a good start. It doesn't feel like a start," I said, the cold anger giving way to a hollow ache. "It feels like an ending." "It is," she said simply. "Now we build a new beginning, one with better foundations." Later that day, Diana's office. "They took the bait," Diana said, hanging up her phone. She looked like a cat that had gotten not only the cream, but the whole dairy farm. "Finch, Evelyn's lawyer, just called. He's sputtering about defamation and malicious prosecution, but he's willing to entertain a discussion to avoid further unpleasantness." Translation: They're scared. The police told them the security footage shows the waiter leaving. They know their story has a hole. They want to see how much you know. So we give them the meeting. I said, "It wasn't a question. We give them a meeting on our terms." Diana corrected. She spun her laptop around. On the screen was a sleek, modern restaurant, all dark wood and soft lighting. Balthazar, private dining room in the back. Very quiet, very discreet. The kind of place Evelyn loves to be seen. We'll invite her, Chloe, and Derek, and, for family unity, we'll also invite Aunt Margot and Uncle Frank. She named 2 of my father's siblings, the ones who'd always been ambivalent, swayed by whoever spoke loudest. They're gossipy, they're concerned, and they'll spread whatever they hear. A public execution in a private room. I'm used. Exactly. Finch will think it's a settlement negotiation. Evelyn will think it's a surrender. You'll wear a wire. My associate will be at the bar, recording backup audio. We get them on tape, admitting enough to sink their battleship. Then we serve the lawsuits and release the evidence to the trustee. A 1-2 punch. She looked at me. You'll have to be calm. Provocative, but calm. You need to get Evelyn to run her mouth. Getting Evelyn to run her mouth has never been the problem. I said, getting her to stop is the trick. Then we'll give her a stage and a very attentive audience. 2 days later, Balthazar, private dining room. The room was everything Diana promised. Intimate, elegant, and soundproofed. A round table set for 6. Evelyn and Chloe arrived first. A united front in matching shades of icy disdain. Evelyn wore a royal blue suit, an obvious power play. Chloe looked puffy-eyed and sullen. Then came Aunt Margot and Uncle Frank, looking apprehensive and curious. Finally, Derek, slinking in like a beaten dog. He couldn't meet my eyes. I sat alone on one side of the table. Diana was running late, a calculated move to let the tension build. I hope you're happy, Evelyn began, not bothering with greetings. The police have been at my house. The Kingsleys are asking questions. You've ruined Chloe's wedding. You violent little. Evelyn. I interrupted, my voice calm. I adjusted the small, nearly invisible microphone, taped just below the collar of my simple black dress. We're here to talk, not to rehash accusations we all know are false. False? Chloe screeched. You threw my mother on a table after she assaulted me. I said evenly, the audio is quite clear, as is the security footage of your accomplice. The waiter, making his escape. How much did you pay him? Chloe? 1,000. 2. Chloe's face went white. I don't know what you're talking about. Of course she doesn't. Evelyn snapped, but her eyes darted to Margot and Frank, who were watching. Hupt, this is more of your paranoid fantasy. Rory, always the victim. Your father saw it. You know, at the end, he saw how you twisted everything. Tried to turn him against his own family. I felt the barb, but it didn't land. I'd made my peace with my father's weakness. My father was a good man who was manipulated by a professional. I said, we're not here to talk about him. We're here to talk about the fact that you conspired to falsely accuse me of theft at a public event, slandered me, and then physically attacked me when I defended myself. Derek finally spoke, his voice a hoarse whisper. Rory, can't we just try to move past this as a family? I looked at him, and I felt nothing, just a faint, distant pity. What family? Derek? The one where you let them call me a thief? The one where you watched her hit me and did nothing? Is that the family you want to move forward with? He flinched. I was in shock. You were a coward. I said, the word's not angry, just factual. And I don't build a life with cowards. Evelyn saw an opening. You see, this hatred, this bile, it's what I've dealt with for years. From the moment I married Richard. She's done nothing but try to destroy our family. She was jealous. Jealous of the love her father and I shared. Jealous of Chloe. Her own mother was the same to the cold. Bitter woman who drove Richard away with her neediness. There it was. The hook. I let the insult to my mother hang in the air. Let it sting. Let everyone at the table feel its ugly weight. Margot gasped softly. Frank looked at his hands. My mother. I said, my voice dropping, playing the wounded, grieving daughter, was dying of cancer while you were sleeping with her husband. You got pregnant with Chloe while my mother was undergoing chemotherapy. Is that the love you shared? The love of a cheating husband and his mistress? Evelyn's composure cracked. The mask of wounded dignity slipped, revealing the vicious core beneath. Your mother was a doormat. She didn't know how to keep a man like Richard happy. He came to me for life, for passion. What did she give him? A sickly child and a house full of misery. He was relieved when she died. The room went dead silent. Even Chloe looked shocked. Margot's hand flew to her mouth. Frank stared, appalled. Derek looked like he wanted to vanish into the floor. I let the silence stretch, let the cruelty of her words fully sink in for our audience. Then, I changed. The wounded posture straightened. The quiver left my voice. It was gone, replaced by a flat, forensic calm. Thank you, Evelyn, I said, for that, and for confirming, on tape, the malicious intent behind a decade of harassment. I tapped the tiny microphone on my collar. Evelyn's face drained of color. You're recording this? That's illegal. You can't. One party consent state. Diana's voice came from the doorway. She stood there, elegant and unruffled. My client is a party to the conversation. She can record, and we have. We've also recorded Chloe's little text message plan to take me down a peg with a hired waiter, and the receipt for the replica bracelet you purchased. Evelyn, from luxreplicas.com for $129.99. The priceless heirloom. Quite the markup. Chloe made a small, choked sound. Evelyn just stared, her mouth opening and closing like a fish. Diana walked in, placing a thin folder in front of each of them. What you have there is a copy of the civil complaint for defamation, intentional infliction of emotional distress, and conspiracy to commit same. The damages sought are outlined. We will also be providing all evidence, the audio from the wedding, today's recording, the texts, the receipt, and bank statements showing the original bracelet was purchased with funds from Rory's mother's estate, T.O. the trustee of the Vance Family Trust. The morality clause is quite clear. All distributions to you, Evelyn, will be frozen indefinitely, pending a full forensic audit. Evelyn found her voice, a strangled shriek. You can't do that. That's my money. Richard wanted me taken care of. Richard, I said, standing up, was a weak man you manipulated. My mother's will and my grandmother's trust had protections you couldn't charm your way around. The money you've been living on, the money that paid for Chloe's wedding, the money that bought that bracelet, it was never really yours. It was hers. And now, it stops. I looked at Margot and Frank, their faces pale with shock. I'm sorry you had to hear it this way, but you deserve to know the truth about the woman who divided this family. Then I turned to Derek. He was crying, silent tears tracking down his face. Not for me, I realized. For himself. For the comfortable life he saw crumbling. As for you, I said, my voice softening not with warmth, but with finality. The divorce papers will be served tomorrow. I'm offering a clean, fair settlement. You take your personal items, your car, and we split the joint account down the middle. You get nothing else. No fight. Just go. Rory, please, he whispered. The boy I loved would have believed me. I said, the last ghost of that feeling leaving me. A wisp of smoke. You're not him. I've been mourning him for years. I'm done now. I picked up my purse and looked at Evelyn, who seemed to have shrunk in her chair, a broken doll in a blue suit. The next time you want to try to destroy someone, Evelyn, make sure they don't have 5 years to prepare for war, and make sure they don't know how to fight back. Diana, and I walked out of the private room, through the hushed, elegant bustle of the main restaurant. The eyes of New York's elite glanced at us, seeing nothing but 2 women having lunch. They didn't see the battlefield we'd just left behind. Outside, on the sunny sidewalk, Diana let out a long breath. Well, that went better than expected. She really went for the "your dying mother was a doormat" line. I almost applauded. I didn't feel like applauding. I felt emptied out, hollow, but clean. Will it hold up? The trust? With that recording, and the paper trail, Armand, the trustee, is a conservative man. He'll freeze the assets today. He has to avoid liability. It'll take months, maybe years, to litigate. Evelyn doesn't have that kind of liquidity. She's broke, or will be very soon. The Kingsleys will drop Chloe like a hot potato once this gets out. Which, she added, nodding to where a pale, shaken Margot and Frank were hailing a cab, their faces full of scandalized gossip. Should be in about 20 minutes. I nodded. The victory felt abstract, distant. And Derek? He'll sign the papers. His mother will tell him to avoid a messy, public court battle that would embarrass her. He does what his mother says. She put a hand on my shoulder. Go home. Your new home. The locks are changed. Your things are in. Get a drink. Sit in the silence. You just won. Rory, it's okay to feel it. I went back to the guest apartment, which Diana had insisted I keep using until my own place felt safe. I didn't get a drink. I changed into workout clothes and went to the gym. Lena was there. You look like you just went 12 rounds, she said, handing me wraps. I did, I said, starting to wind the fabric around my hands. And I won. She grinned. A fierce, feral thing. Good. Now, let's see if you can last 12 rounds with me. For the next hour, I didn't think about Evelyn's shocked face, or Chloe's tears, or Derek's silent weeping. I thought about my footwork, my breathing, the pivot of my hips. I thought about the satisfying thud of my glove against the heavy bag. I thought about the strength in my own body, the product of my own will, my own effort. It was the only thing that had never betrayed me. The bag didn't lie. The mat didn't gaslight you. The sweat and the burn were honest. Later, showered and in clean clothes, I sat in the quiet, modern space. The sun was setting over the Hudson. My phone buzzed. A text from a number I didn't recognize. It's Alex. We met at the Thompson Gallery opening last month. You gave me your card for a logo design. I just saw a truly wild blind item on page 6 about a wedding brawl in Westchester. Made me think of you. Strangely, hope you're not the one who put a stepmother in a cake. But if you are, respect. I stared at the message. Alex, the journalist. Tall, tousled hair, a quick smile, and eyes that actually seemed to listen when I'd talked about design trends. I'd forgotten I'd given him my card. A laugh bubbled up in my throat. Sharp and unexpected. It felt strange, like using a long-forgotten muscle. I typed a reply. Rory here. I can neither confirm nor deny cake-related incidents. But if I were, would that make me a more or less desirable client? The 3 dots appeared almost immediately. Infinitely more desirable. A client with a good throwing arm is a client who won't take crap from printers. Drinks next week? Strictly to discuss your unparalleled typography skills. Of course. I smiled. A real one. Feeling the tightness in my chest ease just a fraction. Of course. Talk then. I put the phone down. The hollow feeling was still there, but it wasn't empty anymore. It was a space cleared of rubble, ready for something new to be built. The war wasn't over. The legal battles would drag on. The gossip would swirl. But the first, crucial battle was won. The truth was out, and I was still standing. I was more than standing. I was, for the first time in a very long time, free. My apartment. 1 week later, the divorce papers arrived at Derek's office via courier. As Diana advised, my offer was simple, clean, and legally airtight. He'd get his car, his personal effects, and exactly 50% of our modest joint checking account. He'd walk away with no claim to my business, my future earnings, or the apartment. I wanted nothing from him but my freedom. His response came not from him, but from his mother. My phone rang that evening. I almost didn't answer the unknown number. Aurora. Patricia Morgan's voice was a frigid drip. I've seen your proposal. It's an outrage. The emotional distress you've caused my son. The public humiliation that you think you can buy him off with pocket change. I was at my drafting table, tweaking a client's logo. I put her on speaker. It's not a proposal. Patricia, it's a settlement offer. The alternative is litigation. I'll subpoena his financial records, his emails, his texts. I'll depose you about the down payment gift and its potential tax implications. The local gossip blogs levy a messy divorce. especially one connected to the Sterling Manor wedding scandal. Which option sounds less humiliating? A sharp intake of breath. You're a vicious girl. I'm a woman with a good lawyer and nothing left to lose. Have Derek sign the papers. It's the best deal he's ever going to get from me. He needs time to think. He has 48 hours. After that, the offer is withdrawn, and we go to court. My next call is to a reporter at the Post who's been sniffing around the wedding brawl story. I'm sure they'd love a quote from the mother of the wronged husband. I hung up. My hand was steady. A year ago, that call would have left me shaking. Now, it felt like taking out the trash. 2 days later, a PDF appeared in my inbox from Diana, the signed settlement agreement. Derek's signature was a messy scrawl. He hadn't even tried to negotiate. He just folded, exactly as predicted. The finality of it was a quiet, hollow thud in my chest. Not grief, just the sound of a long, painful process finally ending. The fall of the House of Harcourt. The evidence, as Diana promised, went nuclear. She didn't just file it with the court. She provided a curated, devastating packet to Armand, the trustee. The audio from Balthazar was the crown jewel. Evelyn's voice, crisp and venomous on the recording. Your mother was a doormat. He was relieved when she died. Armand, a man whose entire professional existence was about fiduciary duty and risk aversion, had no choice. He froze all distributions from the Vance Family Trust to Evelyn, pending a full investigation into potential fiduciary malfeasance and violation of trust morality provisions. Evelyn, who had zero liquid assets outside the monthly trust payment, was instantly broke. The banks called in the lines of credit she'd secured against future distributions. The country club sent a politely worded letter about overdue dues. The charity board she used as social ammunition quietly took her name off the letterhead. Chloe's downfall was swifter and more spectacular. Her new husband, Bradley Kingsley, served her with annulment papers a week after the Balthazar meeting, citing fraudulent misrepresentation. The Kingsley family lawyer had somehow gotten a copy of Chloe's text messages. Bradley's prenup had a bulletproof morality clause. Chloe got nothing, not even the fake bracelet. Rumor had it she'd moved to a cousin's apartment in Tampa. The society blogs Diana had tipped off ran with the story. Not explicit names at first, but the clues were glaring. Westchester wedding, witch hunt exposed. Fake heirlooms and real vendettas in prominent family feud. The comments sections were merciless. People who'd smiled at Evelyn at the club now crossed the street to avoid her. I saw her once, by accident, through the window of a Starbucks. She was arguing with the manager, her once impeccable hair fraying at the ends, her suit looking tired. She was trying to return an unopened bag of coffee, her voice shrill. Do you know who I am? The board barista clearly did not. A wave of something ugly washed over me, did not triumph, not pity, just a deep, weary satisfaction that the monster was finally showing its age. Stripped of its costume, new foundations. I want to teach. Lena paused mid-sip of her post-workout protein shake. Teach what? The hip throw that launched 1,000 gossip columns? Self-defense. For women. Not the fluffy yell-fire kind. The real stuff. How to get out of a wrist grab. How to use your elbows. How to fall. How to make space and run. She studied me. Why? Because for 5 years, I came here to learn how not to be afraid. It worked. I want to give that to someone else. I'll fund it. Rent the space. Buy the mats. You provide the expertise. We make it affordable. Free. If we can get sponsors. A slow grin spread across her face. I've been waiting for you to ask. The back studio is free on Tuesday and Thursday nights. We start next week. Your assistant instructor. Don't screw it up. The first class had 6 women, a college student, a nurse, a bookstore clerk, 2 moms, and a woman in her 60s. They were nervous, giggly, unsure. I stood, next to Lena at the front of the mats. "My name is Rory," I said. "A year ago, a woman slapped me in front of a crowd because she thought she could. I'd been training here for 4 years at that point. I didn't slap her back. I used a basic jujitsu throw to put her on the ground and end the threat. I'm not telling you this so you think I'm tough. I'm telling you so you know this stuff works. You're not here to learn how to fight. You're here to learn how to not get hurt. Your first lesson, right now, your voice is a weapon. Everyone, on the count of 3, I want you to yell back off as loud as you can. Ready? 1, 2, 3. The chorus of voices that erupted was shaky at first, then stronger, filling the gym. The 60-year-old woman, Linda, let out a roar that would have made a Marine proud. We all laughed, the tension breaking. "Good," I said, smiling. "Now, let's learn what to do if they don't listen." Alex. Drinks with Alex were at a noisy, unpretentious bar in the East Village, not a sleek hotel lounge. He was already there, leaning against the worn wood, 2 beers in front of him. He stood up when he saw me. "Rory, you came. I wasn't sure you would." The promise of unparalleled typography discussion was too strong to resist. I said, sliding onto a stool. He laughed. It was a good sound. Easy. "So, the page 6 blind item, the stepmother in the cake. That was you, wasn't it?" I took a sip of the beer. It was hoppy and cold. "Would you believe me if I said it was a tragic accident involving a poorly constructed dessert table?" Not for a second. His eyes, a warm hazel, were curious but not predatory. "I heard things. Through my mom. Actually, she's in the same garden club as well. Someone who knows someone. The story going around is that you're some kind of avenging angel who finally called out a decades-long con. The story going around is probably more exciting than the truth. The truth is just sad, and then eventually, infuriating. The best stories often are." He said. He didn't press. He talked about his work, an investigative piece he was doing on wage theft in the gig economy. He asked thoughtful questions about my design studio. He knew what kerning was. It was strangely disarming. "So," he said, as we ordered a second round, "the infamous husband, is he in the picture? Legally, for about 60 more days. Then, no, he's not. His loss." It was. I agreed. And for the first time, I meant it not as a wound, but as a simple fact. His loss, at the end of the night, on the sidewalk under a buzzing street lamp. He didn't try to kiss me. He just said, "I'd like to do this again. Maybe dinner next time? Less typography. More actual conversation. I'd like that." I said, and I meant that. 2. The final piece. The civil suit against Evelyn and Chloe was proceeding. A slow, grinding legal machine. But the real victory was already won. I was in my apartment, now devoid of Derek's bland furniture and sports memorabilia, when an email from Diana popped up. Subject: Kingsley annulment final. Trustees have filed motion for full restitution. See attached. Attached was a scan of a legal notice. The Vance Family Trust, based on irrefutable evidence of fraudulent behavior and misuse of funds, was seeking to claw back all distributions made to Evelyn over the past 5 years, arguing they were obtained under false pretenses. It was a Hail Mary, but the threat alone would keep her in legal hell for a decade. My phone buzzed. It was Derek, against my better judgment. I answered. "Rory." He sounded sober, tired. "I got the court date. The dissolution hearing. It's in 2 weeks. I know." A long pause. "I'm in therapy. My therapist says I have a problem with enmeshment with my mom, and that I failed you spectacularly. I didn't say anything. I'm sorry," he said, the words sounding raw. "Practiced. I'm so sorry I didn't stand up for you. I was a coward. I loved the idea of you being strong, so I didn't have to be. It wasn't fair. The apology I'd craved for months now landed with a dull, meaningless thud. It changed nothing. Thank you for saying that. Derek, is there any chance? No, I said, my voice gentle but absolute. There's no chance. I hope therapy helps you. I really do. But we're done. He was quiet for a moment. Then, a soft, broken sigh. Okay, goodbye, Rory. Goodbye, Derek. I hung up and walked to the window. The city glittered, endless and indifferent. The hollow space inside me wasn't aching anymore. It was just space, room to breathe, room to build something that was entirely, unequivocally mine. The divorce was almost final. The enemies were in ruins. A new project buzzed with life at the gym. A smart, handsome man wanted to take me to dinner. The war wasn't over, but the siege was lifted. I was no longer just surviving. I was, for the first time I could remember, living. And I was doing it on my own terms. 6 weeks later, the legal avalanche I'd triggered gained its own momentum. I was just a spectator now. My phone buzzed with a news alert from a society blog I'd reluctantly bookmarked. The headline was blunt. Fraud. Fakery family feud. The collapse of a Westchester socialite. The article didn't name Evelyn directly, but the details that a disputed family trust. A stage theft at a wedding. Audio recordings of a mistress disparaging a deceased wife that were a fingerprint. The comments were a blood sport. Diana forwarded me an email. The Kingsley family's lawyers had secured a swift annulment for Bradley. The cited grounds were fraudulent inducement, specifically pointing to Chloe's role in the malicious conspiracy to defame a family member, which they argued demonstrated a fundamental character defect. Chloe got nothing. Not alimony. Not the wedding gifts. Rumor was she'd fled to Florida to live with a resentful cousin. The final blow came via a terse letter from the trustee, Armand, to Evelyn. Diana had a copy. It stated that based on clear and convincing evidence of fraudulent and defamatory conduct, all distributions from the Vance Family Trust were permanently suspended. Furthermore, the trust was initiating proceedings to recover misappropriated funds from the last 5 years. It was a death sentence for the life she'd built. I saw the aftermath in person. I was meeting a client for coffee in Greenwich when I spotted Evelyn leaving a consignment shop. A look of pinched fury on her face. The iconic ice blue suit from the wedding was folded over her arm, a price tag dangling from the sleeve. She was selling it. Our eyes met across the street. Hatred, pure and undiluted, radiated from her. Then, something else, a flicker of stunned, impotent despair. She turned and hurried away, clutching the suit like a shroud. I felt no victory, just a cold, clean finality. The monster was broke. The game was over. My apartment, the self-defense workshop. My own life was moving in the opposite direction. My design business was thriving, fueled by a strange, grim notoriety that turned into respect. You're the one who put her stepmother in a cake? A potential client, a no-nonsense female founder, asked during a pitch. Good. We need more women who don't take shit. You're hired. The self-defense workshops with Lena were the real anchor. Thursday night's class had grown to 15 women. Linda, the 60-year-old, was our star pupil. She'd mastered a basic wrist release and practiced with terrifying gusto. My ex-husband used to grab me like that, she told me after class, rubbing her wrist, just to make a point. I wish I'd known this 30 years ago. Now, I know if my idiot landlord gets handsy about the rent. He's losing a kneecap. That was the point. It wasn't about becoming a fighter. It was about rewriting a script of helplessness. After class, Lena cornered me. Got a call. A women's shelter downtown. They want a seminar. Can't pay much. We'll do it for free, I said without hesitation. She grinned. Thought you'd say that. Also, that journalist guy was here again, watching from the doorway. Didn't interrupt. Alex. He'd taken to dropping by the gym sometimes, claiming to be working on a piece about urban self-defense trends. I didn't mind. The last confrontation, Evelyn, in her death throes, tried one last, desperate gambit. She showed up at my apartment building on a Sunday morning. Mr. Fernandez called me from the lobby. Ms. Vance, she's insisting. She's not well. I went down. She stood in the marble lobby, looking out of place and shrunken. The consignment shop suit was gone, replaced by a cheap polyester blend. Rory. Her voice had lost its syrupy command. It was scratchy, desperate. You have to call off the dogs. The trust they're taking my house. My car. I don't have any dogs. Evelyn. The trustee is following the law. You broke the rules. They were stupid rules. She hissed, but the fire was gone. Your father wanted to have that money. He loved me. He was afraid of you. I corrected, my voice calm. There's a difference. You made his life quiet by making everyone else's miserable. Now the quiet is over. Tears of rage filled her eyes. You've ruined everything. Everything I built. You built it on my mother's grave. I said, you stole her husband. You tried to steal her memory. And you tried to steal my reputation. All I did was stop you. I didn't ruin your life. Evelyn, you mortgaged it to your own greed a long time ago. The bank is finally calling in the loan. She stared at me, and I saw the realization finally hit her. There was no angle left to play, no weakness to exploit. I was immune. Where will you go? I asked, not out of concern, but curiosity. Her chin trembled. My sister in Ohio. The ultimate humiliation. Ohio was social Siberia in her world. I nodded. Have a safe trip. I turned to go. I should have broken you when you were a child. She spat at my back. The last venom in the thong. I paused. Didn't turn. You tried, I said over my shoulder. Look how that turned out. I walked to the elevator, leaving her standing alone in the bright, empty lobby. I never saw her again. A new dynamic. Dinner with Alex was at a small Italian place with checkered tablecloths. The conversation flowed easily at work, movies, the absurdity of New York real estate. He was smart, funny, and he listened in a way Derek never had. He didn't just wait for his turn to talk. So, the workshop, he said, twirling pasta. It's clearly more than a side hustle. It's the main thing. Right now, I admitted, the design pays the bills. The workshop, it fixes something. In you, or in them. I thought about Linda's face. Both, I think. He reached across the table, his hand covering mine. It was a simple gesture, warm and solid. No pressure. I think it's incredible. Later, outside my apartment building, the city hummed around us. I'd like to see you again, he said, properly, without the specter of evil stepmothers or annulments. I smiled. I'd like that too. He leaned in and kissed me. It was gentle, questioning, a world away from the desperate, clingy kisses of a dying marriage. It felt like a beginning, not a claim. When he pulled away, he smiled. Good night, Rory. Good night, Alex. I went upstairs. The apartment, once a place of tense silence, now felt like a sanctuary. My sanctuary. I opened my laptop and saw an email from the divorce court. The final judgment of dissolution. It was official. With a few clicks, I changed my status on my design site from Rory Morganback to Rory Vance. My name, my choice. I walked to the window. The war was over. The landscape was scarred, but quiet. Evelyn was gone. Chloe was gone. Derek was a closed chapter. In their place was a thriving business, a room full of women finding their strength, and the tentative, promising start of something new with a good man. I wasn't just surviving the wreckage. I was building something new on the clear ground, and the foundation, for the first time, felt completely my own. 6 months later, the final gavel fell not in a dramatic courtroom, but via a PDF attachment. The civil suit against Evelyn and Chloe was settled by default judgment. They'd stopped responding to discovery requests months ago, buried under their own legal and financial ruin. The judgment was a staggering number I knew I'd never collect. It wasn't about the money. It was the official, legal record stating, unequivocally, that they were wrong. I donated the expected minuscule recovery to the cancer support charity in my mother's name. A clean end. The Vance Family Trust completed its audit. Armand, the trustee, sent a formal letter. Evelyn had voluntarily relinquished all claims in exchange for the trust dropping the clawback lawsuit. A quiet, complete surrender. The funds were redistributed. A portion now sat in a new charitable subtrust, I advised, funding self-defense programs for at-risk women. Poetic, and far more satisfying than any personal payout. My own life had been rebuilt along simpler, sturdier lines. My design studio had moved to a brighter, airier space. The Self-Defense Collective, as we'd named it, now ran workshops in 3 boroughs and had a permanent, pro bono partnership with 2 shelters. Lena ran the operations. I handled the funding and the vision. It was the work that mattered. A gallery opening a ghost. Alex was covering a political art exhibit for his magazine and dragged me along. It's awful, he whispered in my ear as we stared at a sculpture made of recycled plastic bags and despair. But the champagne is free. I laughed, feeling light. This was us now. Easy. Real. He knew my whole story, the archived articles, the divorce papers, the trust fund clawback. He never treated me like a cautionary tale or a damaged survivor. He just saw me. That's when I saw him. Derek. He was across the room, looking at a violent smear of red paint. A date on his arm who seemed bored. He looked older, thinner. The boyish softness had hardened into something weary. He felt my gaze and turned. His eyes widened. He said something to his date and made his way over, moving like a man walking to his own execution. Rory. His voice was quiet. You look well. I am. You? I'm getting there. Therapy helps. He shoved his hands in his pockets. I heard about the workshops. That's really great. Thanks. An awkward silence stretched. The noise of the gallery swirled around us. My mom, she's seeing someone new. A retired dentist. He doesn't put up with her stuff. It's been an adjustment for me. He gave a weak smile. Turns out I'm not great at being alone. I felt a distant pang, not of longing, but of recognition. This was the man I'd married, perpetually seeking a structure to live within, lost without one. It gets easier, with practice. Yeah, he looked at me, and I saw the ghost of the old love. Now, just a sad nostalgia. I'm sorry, Rory, for everything, not just the wedding, for all of it. I know, I said, and I did. The apology finally had meaning because I no longer needed it. I hope you find your way. Derek, I really do. He nodded, swallowing hard. You too. I'm glad you're happy. He glanced over at Alex, who was watching us politely from a distance, giving us space. He seemed solid. He is. Derek gave a final, jerky nod and melted back into the crowd. I watched him go, felt the last, thin thread of that old life snap and drift away. No anger, no regret, just release. Alex came over, handing me a fresh glass of sparkling water. Everything okay? Better than okay, I said, taking his arm. It's finished. He didn't ask for details. He just squeezed my hand. Good. Now, can we please get out of here? I know a place that serves actual food. Building something new. Later, we walked along the Hudson, the lights of Jersey glittering across the water. Alex's hand was warm in mine. The shelter director called today. I said, one of the women from our seminar. She used a wrist release on her ex when he showed up at her job. Got away. Called the cops. He was arrested. She said it was the first time she ever felt like she had a choice. That's the story. Alex said, stopping to face me. Not the wedding. Not the lawsuits. That. You should let me write about it. About the collective. I'd been wary of publicity. But this wasn't about my past. It was about the work. Maybe. If it focuses on the program. On them. Not on me. That's the only story worth telling. He agreed. We walked in comfortable silence. I thought about the past year, the betrayal, the fight, the stunning, quiet victory. I hadn't just survived. I hadn't just won. I had taken the broken pieces and used them to build a foundation for myself and for others. What are you thinking? Alex asked. I'm thinking, I said, looking out at the wide, dark river and the limitless skyline, that for the first time, the future doesn't feel like something I have to brace against. It feels like something I get to build. He smiled, that easy, genuine smile. So, he said, what's the first thing you want to build? I looked at him, at the city, at the path stretching ahead. I smiled back. Everything. 1 year later, the Vance Foundation launch gala. The buzzy hum in the room was different. It wasn't the judgmental thrum of Sterling Manor. This was a warmer, energetic sound of people who wanted to be here. The venue was a repurposed warehouse in Brooklyn, strung with fairy lights, filled with the smell of good food and the clink of glasses for the open bar. On a simple podium, a logo was projected, a stylized, unbroken circle with the words "The Vance" beneath it. I stood near the back, watching. Lena was holding court with a group of potential donors, demonstrating a wrist release on a grinning, suited banker. See? Economy of motion. No strength needed, just physics and will. Linda, now a certified assistant instructor, was showing off her skills to a rapt circle of women. A hand slipped into mine. Alex, nervous? He whispered, not even a little. I said, and it was true. Good, because you're on in 5. I made my way to the podium. The crowd quieted. I saw familiar faces. Diana, giving me a sharp, proud nod. Clients, colleagues, women from the very first workshop. No family, just the family I'd chosen. I tapped the mic. A year ago, I began, my voice clear in the quiet. I was in a different room. I was being called a thief. I was being told who I was by people who needed me to be small so they could feel big. I paused, letting the memory hang, acknowledged but powerless. That night ended with a cake, a police report, and the stunning realization that I was done. Done being quiet, done accepting a story written by someone else. I glanced at the logo behind me. My mother, Eleanor Vance, was the strongest person I've ever known. She fought a vicious disease with a grace that humbled everyone around her. The one thing she couldn't fight was the silence that moved into our house after she was gone. The silence of complicity. The silence of people who saw wrong but chose peace over principle. I saw Diana's eyes glint. She knew this part was for her, for everyone who'd ever looked away. The Vance Foundation isn't about my story. It's about breaking that specific silence. It's about giving people, mostly women, but anyone who needs it, the tools to speak, to set boundaries, and if absolutely necessary, to create the space to walk away safely. We fund self-defense training in shelters, schools, and community centers. We provide legal aid navigators for those facing intimidation or coercion. We're not teaching people to start fights. We're giving them the ability to end the ones forced upon them. I gestured to Lena and Linda, our head instructor. Lena taught me that power isn't violence. Power is choice. Our first graduate, Linda, is living proof that it's never too late to take that power back. The crowd erupted in applause. I waited for it to settle. The startup grant for this foundation comes from the resolution of my family's trust. I can think of no better way to honor my mother's memory than to use those resources to help others find their voice, to turn the silence that once hurt me into a chorus of strength. Thank you for being here to build it with us. I stepped down to another wave of applause, not for drama, but for purpose. Alex met me, pulling me into a quick, fierce hug. You killed it. We'll see if the checkbooks agree, I said, but I was smiling. The echoes fade. Later, as the gala wound down, Diana sidled up to me. glass of champagne in hand. I got an email today from a process server in Columbus. Oh, Evelyn is countersuing the trust. Again, for undue influence. Diana took a sip, utterly unperturbed. It's her third lawsuit. The trustee's motion for summary judgment is a formality. She's tilting at windmills with a broken toothpick. She's just generating billable hours for some desperate Ohio attorney. It's over. Rory, this is just the sound of the engine dying. I nodded. Evelyn was a ghost in a Midwestern condo, shouting at legal walls. The thought carried no weight anymore. My phone buzzed. A Google alert I'd forgotten to cancel. A short item from a Tampa lifestyle blog. Local influencer Chloe Smith launches lip gloss line. There was a picture. Chloe, looking harder, older, selling glittery tubes with names like Retribution and Silenced. The comment section had 3 comments. It was the saddest, most perfect epitaph. I showed Diana. Ah, she said, the grift goes on, just on a much smaller stage. She clinked her glass against mine. To reduced circumstances, a proposal, of sorts. A few weeks later, Alex and I were at my apartment, the one Derek had tried to lock me out of. Now it was all me.my art on the walls, my books on the shelves, my gym bag by the door. I've been thinking, Alex said, looking up from his laptop. He'd been practically living here for months. Dangerous pastime, about the foundation, and your design work, and the fact that you're running yourself ragged. I like being busy. I know. But what if you could be more focused? He turned the laptop to me. It was a mock-up of a website. Vance Associates. Strategic design for social impact. Hear me out, he said, talking fast. You merge the for-profit design studio with the non-profit foundation under one brand. You take on clients who align with the foundation's mission, ethical companies, women-led startups, community orgs. The profits from the design side feed the foundation. It's a sustainable engine. You're not just a designer who runs a charity. You're a social impact architect. I stared at the screen. The logo was smart, bold. The vision was clear. It was everything I did, but integrated, purposeful. You've been busy. I have a vested interest in you not burning out, he said, his smile softening. I'm in this, Rory, for the long haul. I'm not asking you to build a life with me. I'm asking if I can help you build the one you've already started. As a partner, in every sense, it wasn't a marriage proposal. It was better. It was a partnership proposal. He saw my life, my work, my mission, and he wanted to build his own alongside it. Not rescue me, not idolize me. Join me. I looked from the smart mock-up on the screen to his earnest, hopeful face. You realize, I said slowly, that my last business partner was my husband, and that ended with me throwing his mother's favorite vase in a dumpster. He grinned. I'm aware. I'm also aware that I'm not your husband. I'm not your business partner, and my mother is terrified of you. It's a much better foundation. I laughed, the sound free and full in the room. I walked over and kissed him. Okay, I said against his lips. Okay, let's build it. Vance Associates, partners, epilogue, the architect, another year. The Brooklyn office of Vance Associates was buzzing. I was in a meeting with the directors of a citywide after-school program, sketching out a branding system that was vibrant, strong, and would appeal to teens. My phone was on silent, but the preview of a text from Lena flashed. Shelter seminar max capacity. Need to schedule another. Also, Linda just got her purple belt. Told you she was a natural. I wrapped the meeting. My assistant, a sharp recent grad who'd come through one of our programs, handing me a coffee as I walked back to my office. Alex's desk was across from mine, covered in notes for his next article. A deep dive on the efficacy of community-based defense programs. Our foundation's latest report was his primary source. I sat at my desk, overlooking the busy street. My eyes landed on a single, simple frame. It wasn't a family photo. It was a picture of my mother, young and laughing, holding a toddler me. It was the only photo of her I'd managed to save, hidden in the spine of a book. For years, looking at it brought pain. Now, it just felt like a quiet route. The past was a closed book, a story of a girl who was gaslit, a young woman who was betrayed, and the person she became in spite of it, or perhaps, precisely because of it. Evelyn's world was dust. Chloe was a footnote in a Florida blog. Derek, I'd heard through the vine, was managing a branch of his step-dentist practice and was, by all accounts, adequately content. They'd all played their parts in the old story. My story was different now. It was in the sleek logo on a nonprofit's website, in the confident stance of a woman learning to stand her ground, in the easy collaboration with a man who was my equal, in the quiet, unshakable peace of a life built by my own design. I wasn't a victim. I wasn't even just a survivor. I was the architect, and the blueprint, finally, was all my own.